this week's live. I hope this new year has started off well for you. My name is Matthew Murray, and I am an educator here at Wonders of Wildlife National Museum and Aquarium here in Springfield, Missouri. If you're not familiar with us, we are a 350,000 square foot facility, with museum and aquarium that has over 800 animals from exhibits all over the world. And we have those exhibits spread across over 1.5 miles of walking trails that you can enjoy and celebrate conservation with all of us. And if you can't get to Springfield here and enjoy the museum in person, we've created Mission Conservation. And Mission Conservation is an online program that we've created, and you can find that at www.wondersofwildlife.org/mission-conservation. And so when you go to there, you'll find at the very beginning, we have partnered with Agents of Discovery. And Agents of Discovery is a really cool virtual scavenger hunt that you can download on your mobile device, and you can play at home or in your backyard or wherever. And you can have some great learning experiences in these trying times here at your house. And you can do so safely. So to get the app, what you need to do is you go to our website and you click on the box that says Get the App, and follow the directions that follow. From there, if you scroll down a little bit further, you'll need to download the triggers. Now, these triggers are the things that you'll scan and that you'll find on this virtual scavenger hunt. So you can print them off and hide them around your house or in your backyard or wherever seems best for you. So to do that, you'll go to Print Images, and you can either download them or print them off, and we'll reuse those same images each and every month. Now, if you scroll down a little bit further, we also have, as part of Mission Conservation, we'll have our schedule of missions and activities. Underneath there, you'll see Agent Platypus. Agent Platypus is going to show you our activity guide for this month. And now an activity guide is going to be an indoor craft, a fun little craft and activity that you can do at home, as well as an outdoor activity that you can do as well. Now, if you have any questions on Mission Conservation or any questions regarding the live stream for today, please leave them in the comments section. Now, without further delay, I'd like to introduce our speaker for today. Our speaker today, his name is Holly Balch. Holly is an educator here full-time at Wonders of Wildlife National Museum and Aquarium, and we're happy to have her as part of our team. How are you doing today, Holly?
I'm doing good. Thank you, Matt. All right,
Great.
guys. Sorry.
What do you have to talk to us about today?
Well, today I'm going to be talking about sea turtles because they are one of the most well-known endangered species and also one of the ones with the most conservation efforts to back them and try to save them. So sea turtles have been around for about 110 million years on Earth, and today they are facing many dangers. So there are 7 different sea turtle species, and about 6 of them are either threatened, endangered, or severely endangered. So there are a lot of conservation efforts out there to try to save them because sea turtles are an extremely important species. So they are a keystone species and also a fundamental link in the marine ecosystems. So they play an integral part of interspecific interactions. So what that means is that they play several different important roles in our oceans. So for example, they play the role as prey, as host, as competitor, and as consumer. So a really good example of that is adult sea turtles. Their primary diet is seagrass. So they help to keep the seagrass at a healthy length ecosystems, because if they get too long, that can create an unhealthy ecosystem. And if the ecosystem is healthy, it also plays a very important part in the food web. So sea turtles are extremely important. So there are a lot of different organizations out there right now that are doing what they can to help conserve sea turtles. And one of them is Wonders of Wildlife. So the week of Christmas, we opened a sea turtle rehab center, and we also rescued 12 endangered loggerhead sea turtles that were cold stunned, and we're housing them right here in this facility. So I do have some footage that I would like to share with you guys about these loggerheads and how they were rescued and how they are doing today. And I'll talk a little bit about the process. So guys, every year, hundreds of endangered and threatened sea turtles are left stranded on coasts in either Massachusetts or other states that are in Northeast United States. So what happens is during the summer and early fall, sea turtles will go to that coast to feed. But once the water temperature starts to drop, they need to migrate down south before it gets too cold. Now, sometimes if they don't get out of there soon enough, certain geographic features like Cape Cod can strand them there because it has kind of a hook feature. When that happens, they're not able to migrate out in time and they're left cold stunned, which means that they enter a state of being hypothermic and they can't properly function. And the reason for this is because 6 of the 7 sea turtle species are what we call ectothermic. So what that means is that the surrounding water regulates their body temperature. So when that water gets cold, so does their body temperature. So if they're still there and the temperature of the water starts to reach about 50 degrees, then they are left stranded on the coast. So like I said, every year, hundreds of sea turtles will be left stranded. But this year was the worst live stranding in recorded history, and over 700 sea turtles so far have already been rescued. And another problem on top of that was issues that COVID brought up with this. So due to COVID, a lot of these facilities that typically take in sea turtles had fewer staff, fewer volunteers, less funding, and also stricter protocols. So this definitely increased the demand for more facilities. When this happened, NOAA and the Fish and Wildlife Services set out to find more facilities that could help take in sea turtles. So they reached out to Wonders of Wildlife, and we were more than happy to help take in these sea turtles. And that's when we opened that sea turtle rehab facility. So when this happened, our 12 sea turtles were rescued in Massachusetts, and they were collected by volunteers from the Mass Audubon Wellfleet Marine Sanctuary. So that's located in Massachusetts. When they were rescued, they were taken to another facility called the New England Aquarium Animal Care Center. It's a temporary holding facility where our sea turtles were kept until they found us as a facility to take them in. When this happened, Turtles Fly 2 flew our sea turtles from Boston to Springfield. It was about a 5-hour airplane ride. And once they arrived here in Springfield, vehicles from Dogwood Canyon actually transported them here to Wonders of Wildlife. So as you guys probably saw in that facility, we had this backstage pool. That is where we are keeping our loggerhead sea turtles. So once they arrived here, they got physical examinations, and then they were placed in a 16,000-gallon recovery pool. Now there they have a dozen animal care specialists, including veterinarians and marine biologists, that are working around the clock to help monitor them and give them a nice place where they can recover. So this process can take around 12 weeks because they are constantly being examined and their progress is being monitored. So because they are cold stunned, they could fall ill to long-term effects to pneumonia and other issues. So each turtle is receiving their own care plan to make sure that they make a full recovery. So just like in a hospital setting, the goal is to make sure that we safely rehabilitate the sea turtles and get them healthy again to where they can dive, swim, and also find food. So the goal is to release them back into the wild. Now, sometimes that doesn't always happen, and we always only want to release these animals if we think that they can go back to the ocean and live a proper life and that they can dive, swim, and also find food. So when that happens, and a sea turtle cannot be released back into the wild, a permanent home is found for them. So here at Wonders of Wildlife, we actually have 2 resident green sea turtles here, and they have found a permanent home. They're both juveniles. So in this video that's being played, this is actually where they live. This is a 270,000 gallon exhibit. It is called Open Ocean. So it's home for Izzy and Pam, but also many other different species, including zebra sharks, groupers, Atlantic tarpon, and other species of fish. So this is their permanent home. So they both have a very interesting backstory for why they ended up at Wonders of Wildlife. So before I get into their backstory, I am going to show you guys a video about how we feed our green sea turtles. So we use this special process called target feeding. So we use that for Izzy and Miss Pam, but we also use it for many other different species here at Wonders of Wildlife. So with target feeding, what we do is we train these animals to recognize a target. So the target has been placed into the water, and Izzy swam over because she saw it and she knows it's time to eat, and now they are feeding her. So this helps avoid competition with the other fish in the exhibit or other species in the exhibit. It also helps to ensure that they are getting the diet that they need to stay healthy. And since we do have two sea turtles, they are getting slightly different diets because their age is a little bit different. So here with Izzy and Miss Pam, they both get fed a variety of lettuce, zucchini, shrimp, and squid. And then sometimes they'll actually get fed as a special treat jellies, which a lot of people know that as jellyfish, but jellies is the correct term for that. But that's just kind of a special treat. Izzy's favorite food, though, is romaine lettuce. And so Izzy, since she is just a little bit older than Miss Pam, she actually gets fed a little bit more protein and a little bit less vegetables. So as they get older, they will get less vegetables and more protein. So now Miss Pam has joined, so it's the keeper's job just to make sure that they are getting fed the diet that they need to get fed. And some days they also integrate vitamins into that diet. So they also get vitamin D, calcium, and also a special turtle vitamin. So if you guys are looking at Miss Pam's shell, you guys can probably see that there's two bumps towards the back of her shell, also called a carapace. So those are actually weights. So the reason why she has weights is to help with her buoyancy because of an old injury that she had. So that kind of plays a big part into their backstory. So they are both rescued. Izzy was our first green sea turtle that we got here at Wonders of Wildlife. She is around 5 years old and she weighs around 40 pounds. So a few years ago when she was a younger turtle but still a juvenile, she was found floating in the water and she had an injury, a crack to her cranium right by her middle ear, by her inner ear, I mean. So when your inner ear plays a very important part to your buoyancy and balance, and because of that injury, she couldn't swim correctly or dive correctly because her balance had been thrown off. So when she was found, she was taken to a facility to help give her rehabilitation. So she was there for several months, and one of the things that they did was they attached weights to her shell, just like what you saw with Miss Pam. I'm going to show you guys an example. But just like with her, they put 2 weights on there, and it just helps her balance out and swim better. So Izzy was at a rehab facility for several months, and she drastically recovered, but because she was in rehabilitation for so long, they decided that she couldn't be released because she probably wouldn't be able to evade predators or find food the way that she should in the wild. So they didn't want to take the risk, and she eventually got sent here to Wonders of Wildlife with us. So Miss Pam also has a similar story. So she was found after a red tide event that happened in Florida. So a red tide event is when there's an overabundance of algae in the water and it causes the water to turn red. So it produces a lot of harmful toxins that can harm turtles, other marine life, and also birds. But not only was she found in a red tide, but she also had an old injury that had healed, and it was to her left side and also to her back flippers. So she might have gotten hit by a boat. It's kind of hard to tell. But because of those injuries, she was rescued and taken to a rehabilitation center. It was called the Moat Marine Laboratory. So she was taken there and she spent some time just doing the beginning parts of her rehabilitation process. And then she got sent to Clearwater Aquarium, where she also spent another few months there going through a rehabilitation process. After that, they wanted to test and see if her diving had improved because of her injuries, but she wasn't able to actually dive properly. Anytime that she would try to dive, she would float back to the surface. And so what they did was that's when they attached the weights to try to help her balance. With the weights on, she was able to dive to the bottom of the pool, but eventually one of them fell off and she just floated right back up to the top. So that's when they decided that Miss Pam could not be released back into the wild. And as you guys saw in that video, she still has to have those weights on her today because she can't swim or dive properly. So now that I'm done talking about our sea turtles here at Wonders of Wildlife, I am going to spend a little bit of time talking to you guys about sea turtles and the different species of sea turtle. So there are 7 different species of sea turtle. So today you guys have heard a little bit about the green sea turtle and the loggerhead. There's also the leatherback, the flatback, the olive ridley, and the Kemp's ridley sea turtles. So all 6 of the 7 sea turtles can be seen here in the United States along the coast, except for the flatback. So the flatback only lives in Australia. The most widely seen sea turtle is the loggerhead, the ones that we took in today. So the reason why loggerhead sea turtles get that name is because they have a large head and a very powerful jaw, which they can use to crush invertebrates. And then our green sea turtle, it's one of the largest species of sea turtle in the world. So I think I had mentioned earlier that they can get up to 5 feet long and they can weigh up to 700 pounds. So Izzy and Miss Pam, they're still pretty young. They still have a lot of growing to do. Sea turtles grow very slowly. So it can take 10 to 50 years for them to reach adulthood and their full size, depending on the species. But the largest species of sea turtle is the leatherback. So they can actually get up to 7 feet long and they can weigh over 2,000 pounds. Leatherbacks and loggerheads also have the greatest migration distance. So they can travel thousands of miles. Sea turtles will travel a very long distance from their nesting beach to where they feed. So leatherbacks can actually travel over 3,000 miles just in one way for this migration. Green sea turtles are also another species of sea turtle that do travel pretty far, but not quite as far. It's about 1,200 miles between their nesting beach and then where they feed. And then the flatback has the very smallest migration of all of them because they only stay in the Australian waters. So a fun fact about sea turtles is that when the females are ready to lay their eggs, they actually return to the beach that they were born at. So that's why they make that big journey from their feeding grounds to their nesting beach. We're not entirely sure how they're able to know where they were born, but we believe they use navigation for this. It has to do with Earth's magnetic fields. So they return to the beach that they were born at, and they can lay between 50 to 200 eggs depending on the species. So they'll do this several times a year, and they do that every 2 to 5 years. So a female sea turtle will lay thousands of eggs in her lifetime. The sad thing is that not very many of them actually make it to adulthood. So only about 1 in every 1,000 baby sea turtle actually makes it to adulthood because they have to go through a lot of challenges. So whenever their eggs are laid, the eggs and then also the hatchlings, once they do hatch, there's a lot of predators out there that can pose a risk between insects, crabs, small mammals, including dogs and raccoons will sometimes eat the eggs before they happen to hatch. And then once they do hatch and they start heading towards the open ocean, they continue to pose a risk, including birds. Once the turtles make it to the open ocean, they enter a period called the lost years. And now the reason why it's called the lost years is because we really don't know what all happens to sea turtles during this period. But once they reach the size of a dinner plate, that's when they head back to shallower waters, and they continue to mature until they're able to reach adulthood. So going back to our loggerhead sea turtle, they do have this special adaptation that other sea turtles don't have that I would like to share with you guys. So they have salt glands that are located next to their eyes. And what this does is that they can drink salt water, but then that salt gets excreted back through those salt glands, and it kind of looks like they're crying. So all sea turtles have special adaptations. Another one earlier, I mentioned that 6 of the 7 sea turtle species can be found stranded on beaches during cold weather. But the only species of sea turtle that is not ectothermic is the leatherback. So what that means is that they can actually generate their own body heat, and they can actually stay warm. So they are the biggest species of sea turtles, so they are very big. They also have a large amount of body fat, and they can also change how they swim in the water and change the pressure. So that's why they're able to stay warm compared to other turtles. So I do have a couple of artifacts I'm going to share with you guys. So this one right here is a Hawksbill Sea Turtle skull. It is a replica. So I know it is kind of hard to see, but right here, so his head kind of turns into like a beak shape. That's why he's called a hawksbill, because his face kind of resembles that of a hawk. So the reason why it's pointed like that is to help them open up clams and stuff and pull out what's inside and pull out sponges. And then this is just a representation of a green sea turtle. So it is a juvenile since it is very small, but this is the top shell or the carapace. And then this are the flippers. They have back flippers and then front flippers. So going back to sea turtle eggs, I hope you guys can see this, but generally the eggs that we're used to are kind of oval shaped like chicken eggs, but sea turtle eggs are actually round, more like a circle. So sea turtles, just like a lot of other species of reptiles, the sex of the turtle, the hatchling, is actually determined by the temperature of the nest. So typically, if it's a warmer than average temperature of the nest, it produces more females. If it's cooler, it's going to be more males. Obviously, you want the more average temperature to produce about 50% females, 50% males. But with global warming being an issue, there's way more females hatching because the nests are a warmer temperature, which is one of the causes for why sea turtles are endangered. There's also other reasons, including that they're getting caught in fishing nets, over pollution in the water, an abundance of plastic in the ocean. So there's all major issues to why they are endangered right now, but I do want to share some ways that you guys can help, and they're all pretty small ways. So you guys can join organizations like Oceana, For Ocean, WWF. If you ever want to donate to those organizations, you can, but you don't have to. Every little bit helps. You can also try to get more reusable and recyclable items, and also recycle things when you can. Also, limiting straws is also a great way, or just using paper straws or reusable ones like metal straws. So guys, thank you so much for having me today, and I'm going to turn it back over to Matt.
Thanks, Holly, and thank you all for joining us. We appreciate you, Holly, for talking to us all about sea turtles and the sea turtle programs that are going on here at Wonders of Wildlife. We also appreciate letting us know what we can do to help out our friends sea turtles. So that's all we have time for this week. Join us next week as we continue our theme for the month of January, Endangered Species. We'll be doing our live stream again at 1 p.m. Central Time, and we look to see you all there.